Hello everyone, and welcome back to day 6 of the Advent of Cyber 3 by TryHackMe. So this challenge is a bit harder than the ones we had in the past, and it's going to take a bit longer. Of course, I did it already once, just so I don't struggle so much whenever I show it to you guys. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So what we'll need to do today is basically exploit a local file inclusion vulnerability into RCE, or remote code execution. This is a quite standard chain of exploit that you will need to do if you want to do the OSCP, or basically just ActaBox as well, or even TryHackMe's boxes. This is something that you need to have in your toolbox, which is a good way to learn it's today's challenge. So let's dive right into it. So what is LFI, or local file inclusion? So I won't repeat what is being said in this room, and I'll invite you to just go ahead and read this theory. But what I can say right now is a local file inclusion is basically a way to read system files through a vulnerability in an application that does not sanitize your basically what is being shown to you. I'll try to put a real description on screen right now, just so you can have a better definition than what I said, because this was on top of my head. So let's keep going. So what we'll need to do is LFI into RCE. What is RCE? RCE is remote code execution, probably the highest, the most dangerous vulnerability a web application can have, because an attacker can simply just do code on your machine, and that's very bad. And how can we do that? Well, we can do that via log files, for example. And I won't dive too deep into the theory part right now, just because we'll do it in the practical part, and I don't want to discourage you. All right, so let's do the thing, and let's just go down to the practical aspects, and we'll handle it with the questions, because the questions are, of course, very pertinent to what we'll need to do, right? So let's just go into it, and as we do it, I'll try to give more information about what we're doing, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. All right, so first we need to deploy the VM, of course. It's always like that. If you don't know how to connect to the VPN, oops, that was from my test. If you don't know how to connect to the VPN, make sure to watch day 3 of the Advent of Cyber 3, because I show you how to do that. So let's go into it. And now, what is the entry point for our web application? All right, so if we go here, this is our web application, and if let's just pretend I go here for the first time, right? So you see that the entry point of the web application seems to be this hair here. So the parameter hair for error, but this is the one that could be called also file, because it seems to be the one that we'll be doing our LFI through. So let's just copy this and go here, and as you can see, it's a valid response. Now we need to use our local file inclusion to read /etc/flag. So all right, so let's go back into what local file inclusion is. So you know that local file inclusion, we can basically read system files that are not supposed to be read by us, such as, for example, etc passability for the username, and potentially password hashes, but probably not, because that's in etc shadows nowadays. So we shouldn't be able to read this, right? Because this is a file that is located on the system in the etc directory. So we shouldn't have access to this. But because the code, which you probably saw if you read the room theory, the code of the web application will basically allow us to read any file we want. And by providing its path, because it's going to go and fetch this path for us. So if I just do this, so I'm basically saying from error.txt, which is what it's displaying right now, I'm like, hey, hair or file, do me a favor and show me etc flag. And when I do that, you can see it appear here, right? So that's our flag. which we can just input here. So if you understood what happened there, congrats. That's a not so easy concept to grasp, but if you didn't understand, let me try to explain it a bit more in depth. So basically, this application, this index.php file has a function within it that will grab whatever you input here, well, into the hair parameter. It will take the value as a whole and just throw it on the web application. That's what happened here. And because this isn't being, well, I don't want to say sanitized, but because there's no checks about what resources you're trying to access, you can read any file on the system. This is why we can have access to etc flag, or for example, etc passwd, I guess, which we can see here. So we can read basically anything that's being on the file system. All right, so using the PHP filter technique to read the source code of index.php. All right, so if you read, you saw that we can actually convert into base64 files, and that's what we'll need to do right now. And we'll try to find this theory. Scrolling. Oh, PHP filters. All right, there they are. So the one we will be interested into is this one right here. So what does this do? Well, replace file with hair, which is what we're working with. Basically, we're like, hey, so convert this resource into base64, because for example, if we try to grab, let's say, ./index.php, you'll see that it's just running the PHP script again. So we need to convert it by using this tidbit of not code, but this tidbit of filters basically. And we can now do index.php. Why is that? Well, index.php, basically if we were trying to just grab it like it is, we would be basically saying to the web application, hey, grab this PHP file and show it to me. However, in our case, we do not want to have the PHP code being run, right? Because if I'm like, hey, show me this PHP file, the web application would be like, hey, okay, fine, I'll run it, because that's what I'm meant to do, such as, you know, here, index.php that is running. So if we ask the web application to run another, well, to show us another index.php, by default, it will try to execute it. But we don't want that. We want to see the content of it. So that's why we need to convert it into base64 or ROT13 or whatever before we can read it, because then it's not being run basically by the web application. So now we can just grab this old base64 string and go on CyberChef, which I already showed you in day 2, I believe, with cookie manipulation. And we can do the little magic Christmas wand that will show us the code. And now if I'm being cool, I'll do gedit index.php, for example. I don't have it. Let's just download it. Yes. Sorry about that. And I can just paste it here. So now we can see it better. So as we can see, this is the code, and we can see our flag here. So that's the flag we want. So let's scroll down. Let's grab the flag. Alright, so what this is saying here is that now that we can read this, there's a login credential PHP file path inside of it, and use the PHP filter technique to read its content. So if we go back here, we can actually see right here in the include that it includes creds.php. So this is what we want. So let's grab this and oh, by the way, side note, you can see it here. So this is the problem with the web application, right? Because it's basically getting whatever we put into here. There's no check, so that's why we can get anything on the file system. All right, so let's go and grab this, and now they tell us that we need to do the encode the filters again. So let's just do that. Oops. I grabbed header and not the right thing. Now we got the creds. And let's just input it into CyberChef again, and we can see that there's MexKitty with a password. So let's grab these credentials. And there we go. Now use a credential to log into the web application. Help MexKitty to recover the server's password. What is the password of this? So, alright. Let's make sure I have the password saved. Now let's log in. Let's do what we were meant to do all this time. And log in. So let's do, oops, that's a password. And let's do MexKitty. Alright, so we see that there's password recovery, log access, and log out. Alright, so let's go into password recovery because we need to find this flag. That was quite easy. Alright, so the web application logs all users' requests and only authorized user can read the log file. Yes, that is true. Use the LFI to gain RCE via the log file. What can we do? So we need to find the host name of the web server. So how can we do that? Well, we can just use PHP info, which is, I believe, that's the example being given here with the little QRL. So I won't go too deep into the theory about this whole thing, but basically what we can do is we can just copy this, and this is gonna create a log on the like in the log section. So if I go here, it's going to create a log here, right? That's a lot of logs. And because we're basically inputting valid PHP code, if we can LFI this, so if we can read this file via a local file inclusion, it will actually run the code that we enter. And that's log poisoning, basically. Oops, that's mousepad. All right, so let's close this. Let's input this. So technically, it should now work. So if I query via the log, if I LFI the logs, which are right here, I should have access to it. So let's go here. Let's actually log out. Let's get our little error again, and let's try to read it. So as you can see, we see the PHP info output. Why? As I said, what we did basically was in our user agent, in our user agent with the -a, we inputted a valid PHP code. So what happens is, just like I told you before, right, with the when we were trying to query index.php but see the code and not just have it execute, well, it's the same thing that's happening here. So what's happening here is this time we didn't filter out. Well, it's gonna run and execute whatever PHP code it can find inside the page, because this is what our web application does. It runs code. So this is why we can see this right now. So if I just Control F and I type hostname, this is the hostname right here. I can just grab all of this and put it here, remove the space, and now it's okay. And this one is a bonus, but I won't do this one. I will show you another bonus we can do right now. So just like that, we've completed this whole part. Thank you guys so much for watching day 6 of the Advent of Cyber 3 by TryHackMe. As always, if you like my content, please consider subscribing and liking the video. It helps me a lot. If you want to support me, links are in the description below. Thank you guys so much again, and see you tomorrow for day 7 of the Advent of Cyber 3 by TryHackMe.